What makes a man who has lost everything pick up a stranger who looks half dead and carry her home, knowing she could break what little is left of him? The morning mist clung to the Wyoming valley like a thin blanket of sorrow as August Merritt stood on the porch of his battered ranch house. 6 months had passed since the prairie fire stole his wife, half his cattle, and most of his spirit. His ranch looked tired. His fences leaned like old men. The barn was mostly ashes. Only the house still stood, charred in places but stubborn, refusing to fall apart, even if he felt like he already had. August held a tin cup of cold coffee that tasted more like burnt iron than anything meant for drinking. Still, he swallowed it because routine was all he had left. Routine kept a man standing when grief tried to knock him down. Routine kept him breathing when he didn't know why he should. He looked out over the wide land. 30 cattle grazed in the far pasture. Once there had been nearly 200. Sarah, sweet, gentle Sarah, had helped him build it all. She'd kept the books, managed the kitchen, tended the garden, and filled the house with songs that drifted through open windows in the spring breeze. Now there was nothing but silence. A silence so heavy it felt like something he had to walk around. His fingers touched the folded letter in his pocket. The bank wanted its money. They were tired of waiting. 3 months behind. Foreclosure coming. He didn't need to read it again. The words lived inside him now like a second heartbeat. He walked back inside the house. Everything was exactly where Sarah left it. Her sewing basket by the window, her favorite chair sitting empty. The quilt she had started but never finished, still draped across the arm. He kept her wedding ring in a small wooden box on the mantel. Sometimes he held it at night and remembered the sound of her laugh. Today he couldn't bring himself to touch it. He needed supplies. Flour, lamp oil, salt, coffee. Living alone stripped a man's will, but he wasn't ready to lie down and die. Not yet. He saddled Buck, Sarah's gentle bay gelding, and hitched the wagon. The ride into town took 2 hours, the mist slowly lifting to reveal the wide Wyoming sky stretching above him like a reminder that the world was too big for one man's grief. Cedar Falls felt busier than usual. Folks moved about without meeting his eyes. They'd tried for months to help him. He'd pushed them away with silence, and now they treated him carefully, the way folks treat a wounded animal. He got his supplies and headed back out into the rain that had started falling steady and cold. Buck stumbled, favoring his left front hoof. A stone, probably. August sighed. The railway station platform had a covered spot where he could work on the horse without soaking through. He guided the wagon over and hopped down. Steam hissed from the waiting train. Passengers hurried on board. The conductor barked orders. It all moved with the usual busy rhythm, until a sound cut through the noise. "No sick passengers allowed," the conductor shouted. "She can't travel, not my problem." August frowned and looked up. 2 well-dressed men stood beside a woman, slumped on the bench. Her hair hung loose and wet around her face. Her dress clung to her thin frame. She was barefoot, shivering, her skin pale as snow except for the fever flush burning across her cheeks. A medical bag rested beside her like the last piece of dignity she carried. One of the men said, "We paid her ticket, sir. She needs to get to the next town." "Not my concern," the conductor snapped. "She's too sick. Liability. Leave her here." The men hesitated, but only for a moment. Then, with guilt written all over their faces, they tipped their hats and hurried onto the train. The crowd at the station parted around the woman like she was nothing but a broken crate someone had dropped. August pulled the stone free from Buck's hoof, but his hands paused. Something about the way she sat, still, quiet, resigned, hit him in the chest. A person shouldn't look that alone. Not in this world. Not anywhere. He walked toward her before his mind even caught up with his boots. "Miss," he said, his voice rough from months of disuse. "You got somewhere to go?" Quote. Her head lifted slowly. Her blue eyes looked sharp even through the fever. "No," she whispered, "but thank you for asking." "What's your name?" Lenora Vale. August nodded. August Merritt. She studied him with surprising awareness for someone half dead. Why are you talking to me? He shrugged. Seems someone should. The rain pattered against the wooden roof. People walked past without sparing her a glance. August felt something shift inside him, something he thought the fire had melted into nothing. You'll die out here, he said simply. I have a ranch 2 hours away. It's warm. Dry, you can rest. Why help me? She asked quietly. Don't know, August answered honestly. Just feels right. She tried to stand. Her knees buckled. Without thinking, August caught her. She weighed almost nothing. He wrapped his coat around her shoulders, lifted her gently, and carried her to the wagon. She didn't protest. She was too weak for pride. As he settled her onto the wagon seat, she gripped her medical bag as though it was the only thing keeping her tethered to the world. Rest, he said softly. I'll get you home. Her eyes drifted closed. He didn't know yet that this woman, barefoot, starving, abandoned, would change every part of his life before the sun set. He didn't know that by nightfall she would be his wife. But fate had already decided, and the wheels of the wagon carried them both toward a storm neither could have predicted. What happens when a man who forgot how to live finds himself saving someone who still wants to fight for her life? The wagon wheels groaned as August guided Buck through the muddy trail toward the ranch. Rain fell in steady sheets, running down Lenora's pale face where she leaned weakly against his shoulder. Her breathing was shallow, too fast, and her hands trembled even in sleep. Every few minutes she shivered as though trapped between fire and ice, and each time August pulled the coat tighter around her small frame. By the time they reached the house, the rain had turned cold enough to sting. August lifted Lenora from the wagon with careful arms. She was light, too light, and her skin burned with fever. He carried her inside, kicking the door shut behind him, and laid her on the old horsehair sofa, the same one Sarah used to nap on during long summer afternoons. The memory stabbed him, but Lenora's weak whisper pulled him back. Water, she murmured. August hurried to fill a cup, helping her drink slowly. Her hands were shaking so badly she nearly dropped it. Easy now, he said, settling her back against the cushions. Her blue eyes blinked open. Even fevered, they saw too much. This is your home, quote. It was hers first, he said before he could stop the words. Lenora's gaze softened. Your wife. He nodded once. I'm sorry, she whispered. I can see her everywhere. He didn't answer. Instead, he tucked a blanket around her, Sarah's quilt. He had not touched it since the fire. Now he placed it gently over the stranger on his sofa, surprised that it didn't tear him apart. Lenora touched the edge of the fabric like it was sacred. She had gentle hands. I can feel that. August froze. No one had spoken of Sarah with such simple understanding since the funeral. Lenora's voice wavered. If you want me gone when I'm stronger, I'll go. I don't want to disturb her place here. You're not disturbing anything, August said quietly. You're breathing. That's all that matters right now. She managed a tired smile. Then let me help myself breathe. She tried to sit up, but August stopped her with a firm hand. You're not moving. Not yet. I'm a nurse, she insisted. Frontier hospitals. Military posts. Let me check your supplies. You can barely sit. And you need willow bark for fever, she said, pointing toward the small, dusty shelf where Sarah once kept herbs. And hot broth. And warm stones wrapped in cloth for my chest. August blinked. How do you know I have willow bark? I smelled it in the kitchen, she whispered. Your wife dried it the right way. You can smell the earth on it. August looked toward the kitchen. She was right. He swallowed the tightness in his throat. You rest. I'll get what you need. She nodded, finally letting her eyes close again. August moved through the house, gathering things he hadn't touched in months. Sarah's jars. Sarah's herbs. Sarah's pot she used for winter broths. His hands shook as he filled it with water and brought it to a boil. Yet something felt different. Like this small act, making broth for a sick stranger, was pulling him out of the grave he'd dug inside himself. When the broth was ready, he helped Lenora drink a few spoonfuls. She coughed, winced, but kept going. "You're stubborn," he muttered. "You haven't met me on a good day," she whispered. As the hours passed, her fever burned higher. August sat beside her, wet cloth on her forehead, spooning broth when she could manage. Sometimes she slept. Sometimes she murmured things he couldn't understand. Once she jolted awake in fear. "Where am I?" she gasped. "Safe," he said. "You're safe. No one's going to leave you on a platform again." Tears gathered at the corners of her eyes. "Thank you." He nodded, not trusting his voice. By sundown, the fever finally eased. Lenora's breathing grew steadier. Her cheeks held a little color. She opened her eyes and looked at him in a way that made his chest ache. "You saved me." "You're not saved yet," he said, "but you're getting there." A long silence fell. Then, very quietly, Lenora asked, "What will people say? A sick woman staying alone on a widower's ranch?" August stiffened. He hadn't thought of that. "They'll talk," she whispered. "They always do." He rubbed the back of his neck, feeling the weight of truth. "You're right. Folks around here don't tolerate anything that looks improper." "And what do you want?" she asked. Her voice was small, but her eyes were steady. "I want you alive," August said honestly. "I want you safe. And if the town needs a reason to stop wagging tongues, there's one way." Lenora blinked. "You can't marry me just to shut people up." "I can," he said simply, "and it'll keep you safe. The town won't question a wife." She stared at him, stunned. "You don't know me," she whispered. "I know enough," he said. "I know you fought to stay alive. I know you're brave. I know you didn't deserve to be thrown away like that." Quote. Her lips trembled. "And what if I say no?" "Then I'll still keep you here till you're well," he said. "But folks will come asking questions. And the conductor said you worked at a fort. Someone might come looking for you." She flinched like the words hit a wound. His voice softened. "You're not safe out there alone." "And I wouldn't be a burden?" she asked. He shook his head. "Everyone's a burden to someone. The question is whether they're worth carrying." Tears filled her eyes. "August, if this saves my life, then yes, I'll marry you." He nodded once. "Before sunset?" She gave a shaky smile. "Before sunset." And that was how, standing in the fading light of a cold Wyoming evening, a grieving cowboy and a fevered nurse made a quiet promise neither expected to make. A promise that would change both their lives long before the night was through. What happens when the truth you fear the most comes knocking on your door the moment you finally find a reason to live again? The sun had barely risen the next morning when August hitched the wagon and helped Lenora climb inside. She was still weak, but she sat straight, her medical bag clutched like a lifeline. Her fever had broken in the night. Her voice was stronger, her eyes clearer. But there was a heaviness there, something she hadn't told him yet. The town of Cedar Falls was quiet when they arrived. Only Martha Henley was sweeping her porch, and she froze mid-sweep when she saw them. "Morning." August called. Martha stared at Lenora, then at August, then back at Lenora. "Morning." August didn't wait for the questions. He helped Lenora down, offering an arm she hesitated to take before finally accepting. They walked together to Preacher Morrison's small house behind the church. When August knocked, the door opened almost at once. Preacher Morrison blinked at them. "August? Everything all right?" "No," August said plainly, "but this might make it all right." Lenora's cheeks flushed. August didn't look at her. If he looked too long, he feared he'd forget how to breathe. "We'd like to be married," he said. The preacher blinked again, twice this time. "Married? Well, I suppose that explains the look on Martha Henley's face." Lenora tried to smile, but looked mostly embarrassed. "Is this what you want, Miss Vale?" the preacher asked gently. She looked at August. He looked back. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then she said quietly, "Yes, it is." The preacher nodded slowly. "All right then, come inside." The ceremony took less than 5 minutes. No rings. No witnesses besides the preacher's wife, who peeked around the corner with eyes wide as dinner plates. No flowers. No celebration. Just two people, standing shoulder to shoulder, saying words they never thought they'd say. When the preacher asked August if he would take Lenora as his wife, August didn't hesitate. "I will." And when he asked Lenora, her voice trembled, but she said, "I will." They signed the paper in silence. The preacher blessed them. Then they stepped outside into the morning light, husband and wife. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Lenora whispered, "Thank you." Quote, "You don't need to thank me," August replied. "We'll figure it out together." He helped her into the wagon, their hands brushing briefly. Warm, uncertain, hopeful. It should have felt like a beginning, but danger was already on its way. They reached the ranch before noon. August helped Lenora inside, made her tea, and set her up on the sofa with Sarah's quilt again. She closed her eyes briefly, resting. For the first time in months, the house didn't feel empty. It didn't feel cold. It felt like someone lived in it again. But the fragile peace shattered the moment hoofbeats thundered into the yard. August stiffened. He stepped outside. 4 men were dismounting at his gate. Their clothes were plain, but their posture was unmistakable, military. A tall man stepped forward, his voice sharp and commanding. "August Merritt. We're looking for a woman named Lenora Vale. She is wanted for theft of military supplies, treason, and desertion. We have reason to believe she came through Cedar Falls." August's stomach dropped. He didn't speak. The officer continued, "We are authorized to search all nearby properties." August's voice was flat, not without a warrant. "We don't need one. You do here." The officer's jaw tightened. "Step aside, Mr. Merritt." "No." The officer motioned to his men. "Search the house." August stepped forward. "Touch my door and you'll regret it." A gun clicked. Lenora's voice carried from inside the doorway, weak but steady. "Stop." August spun. She stood in the shadow of the doorway, pale, trembling, wrapped in Sarah's quilt. "Lenora," he warned. "It's all right," she said quietly. "I knew they'd come eventually." The officer strode toward her. "Colonel Vale, you are under arrest." "No," August snapped. "She's my wife. This is her home. You have no right." "She is federal property," the officer barked. Lenora flinched at the words. August saw it, and something inside him snapped. "Federal property," he repeated, his voice turning cold. "She's a human being. She's my wife. And if you think you're dragging her out of here like a criminal, you'll have to put me in the ground first." The officer paused, eyeing him. "Mr. Merritt, you don't understand what she's done." "I know exactly what she's done," August shot back. "She saved people, that's her crime. Saving the wrong people, right?" Lenora closed her eyes as tears ran down her cheeks. The officer stiffened. "Step aside." "No." The officer raised a hand. His men reached for their rifles. That was the moment Tom Brennan and 2 other ranchers rode up fast, guns ready. Tom shouted, "Nobody's taking anyone from this ranch without the sheriff." The tension snapped tight like a wire between 2 hands. For a long moment, the yard was silent except for the wind. Then, another sound. Sheriff Blake's horse thundered up the trail. The sheriff jumped down, holding papers. "Stand down," he commanded. The officer bristled. "Sheriff, this is military business." Blake shoved the papers forward. "Territorial law trumps you here." "She's married now. She is a legal resident of Wyoming Territory. You have no right to remove her without a hearing, and until you can prove she is guilty, she is under my protection." The officer's face turned red. "You cannot." "I can," the sheriff said firmly, "and I will. Now get off Mr. Merritt's land." The officer hesitated. Then he snapped his fingers, and his men retreated. Before mounting, he glared at Lenora. "This isn't over." August pulled Lenora close as the soldiers rode away. She shook against him. "I didn't want this trouble for you." He held her tighter. "You didn't bring me trouble. You brought me back to life." Her breath hitched. "And as long as I'm breathing," he whispered, "no one will take you from me." Months later, as spring touched the valley, the War Department quietly dropped the charges. The truth had spread. People spoke of a nurse who saved dozens of Lakota lives during a cholera outbreak. They spoke of bravery, compassion, honor. The ranch healed. Lenora healed. August healed. And one evening, as they stood on the porch watching the sun sink behind the mountains, Lenora slipped her hand into August's. "You saved me," she whispered. He shook his head. "No, you saved me first." Together, they stepped inside their home, no longer haunted, no longer silent, just filled with the quiet, steady warmth of a love neither had expected, but both had fought to keep.